Full-time Devils, Palace preview. Let's get stuck in. My name's Gaz, that's Abdullah. Hiya, mate.
Hi, alright, mate.
Hiya, Jay.
Hi, mate, you okay?
Right, let's get stuck into it. Off the back of the Wolves result, it seems like there's a lot of negativity online, which I don't really understand. I think it's not too bad of a result. And if we get the win against Palace, then that's a really good start to the season, I think.
I thought the Wolves game, in terms of a pure performance, I thought was actually a bit better than Chelsea in terms of dominating the ball, feeling a bit more comfortable on the pitch. I think it was mainly down to us giving Chelsea the ball, and that's how we wanted to play with Martial, Rashford on the break, Lingard and Pereira, of course. I think what we did really well in the Wolves game is, I mean, a lot of people were having a bit of a moan about the likes of Daniel James on the pitch, but I thought he was getting on the blind side of the midfielders and defenders, winning it back, and then playing it into McTominay and Pogba. And I thought in the first half, McTominay and Pogba really set the tone for us in midfield and had that, dominance sort of what we wanted to see. And I've only really seen City have any sort of that much of the ball, I'd say, at Wolves away. And I'd say, it's not the worst result. And the performance, I'm only excited now going into the next game, because now that's two good results, in my opinion, for the start of the season, considering it's Wolves and Chelsea 4 points.
People are going to be having a go at you who can't get their head around how a 1-1 draw performance can be as good or better than
it's
a 4-0
frustrating
performance.
how it happened, of course. I understand that. It's frustrating how, you don't think of marking Neves on the edge of the box. It's ridiculous. Come on. So, but these are things you can iron out in your game. The things that you can't are the problems we had in our back four last season. The goals that we conceded against Wolves, losing the ball in midfield, them getting in, and then, that absolutely shambolic goal between Smalling, De Gea and Jones or whoever it was, picking it up in front of him and go. That sort of didn't happen, and it was just one mistake that happens to any team, and I think it's just about gradually improving the side, and I've seen progress in the first two games, if I'm honest.
Well, Jay, have you seen enough from the first two to give you a lot of confidence going into this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason it was so deflating on, was it Monday night, sorry?
Yeah.
Was the first half performance was so good. I was really impressed. We out-Wolves, if you get what I mean, because they're usually quite a high-tempo team, they like to press and pass it around. And they played us off the park quite a few times, embarrassingly, over the last season. But we were sort of in their faces, we were winning every ball. They didn't look like they could cope with us. And at half-time, I thought there's only one winner in this game, and it's us. And then we came out in the second half, and they brought on the lad, Adama Traore, and we just couldn't get to grips with it. And I don't think he's that good, but he sort of had Luke Shaw on toast for a little while as well. And then to get the penalty and not convert it, I don't want getting swore at, drama, but when it's 1-0 and you get a penalty, you expect to convert it, you expect to win. When you go ahead against Wolves, no disrespect from a good team, you expect to win. So for that element, I think there's emotions run high at the end of it, and you think, me and Abdul were talking earlier, there was a 20-minute spell where I thought Wolves were quite dominant, we were quite poor, we were quite wasteful. But other than that, you could argue for at least an hour we played really well. And I think there are positives. This is a young team that's going to get used to having to dig deep, to having to just grind out results. The Fergie, when we used to just grind out a result and get a win.
I think talking about grinding out results, we could have. The one problem that I did have with everything that happened, I thought the setup was correct, because, like I said, in the first half you had Jesse Lingard, Daniel James, putting the press on, winning the ball back and playing it comfortably to McTominay and Pogba, who had the time on the ball. But then going into the second half, changes had to happen between the 75th minute maximum. I think that's when Mason Greenwood comes in for me, because then you've got someone who's more of a striker, he can play wide, he'll pick the ball up and he'll go on the inside, and they set up as a back three, and I think you hurt them if you bring Greenwood on. James tactically had a good game in my opinion, and product wasn't great, his crosses weren't great, but I think he wasn't in the game for that. I think if he play on a counter like we did against Chelsea, we'll see a bit more of him. But I think those changes should have happened earlier if we wanted to grind out the result, like you said. But overall, I am happy. It's just things that Ollie hopefully picks up. He's a new manager.
It's 4 points from them two games. You look at those fixtures, Chelsea and Wolves, two difficult fixtures. Could quite easily be sat here with 1 or 2 points, thinking, here we go again after the end of last season. But 4 points from 6, and we're actually complaining that we've not got all 6.
Yeah.
Isn't really a bad position to be in, if we're being honest.
I think that our start of the season all rests on this one against Palace. I think if we get the win here, we can safely say, yes, I'm very confident at that start of the season. So you're saying if we take that performance from the Wolves game into the Palace game, we should be getting the win?
Definitely, yeah, I agree with Abdul there. I know we're going to get into Palace in a bit more detail later, but I don't think Palace are at the level that Wolves are, or Chelsea for that matter, even a fairly new Chelsea side under Lampard. So I think that sort of performance, especially that first half performance against Palace, against Wolves, sorry, if we took that into the game against Palace, I think we can get more than just 1 goal against them.
Especially with it being at Old Trafford.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, do you remember a time when United didn't used to lose home games? When we barely lost any all season. Obviously, very different last season. We won 10 of our 19 home games. Liverpool won 17 of theirs. City won 18 of theirs. Can this team now, with the fans behind it, make Old Trafford a fortress again, Abdullah?
I think they can. I think there's you always want to be optimistic as a fan, but I genuinely do think there's a different feel to it. I think we've approached things, you look at even the transfer market, we've approached things differently. We've made sure that players that want to be here, we want to build sort of something that we more long term. And I think having the players that want to be here and fight for the badge, there's a couple in that side for me. You can clearly see some of those players want to be in that side, and it's something I've not felt, and that's going to have effect on home games because seeing Old Trafford as what it is. Recently teams have just come in there and thinking we can play here, but you don't want that. You want to be on the front foot at all times, even if it's City, Chelsea, whoever you are. Tactically, like we've seen in the Chelsea game, sometimes it can give the teams the other way. You can give them the ball. We've seen Sir Alex do that, but then you've got to beat those sides. If you are willing to give them the ball, you've got to hit them on a break and take chances like we did against Chelsea. But I do think, the feel that I'm getting is Ollie wants to make Old Trafford, more of a fortress, and I think the players will be on board with that.
Admittedly, it might have had more to do with the fact that we won 4-0 against Chelsea, but first game of the season, I really did feel there was a nice sort of feeling towards the fans and the players that we've maybe not seen in recent seasons. Do you reckon this team and the fans, maybe they could have a bit better rapport with these fans?
I think Gary Neville was talking about earlier, maybe in the last season, towards this season, like this team, liking this team. And I think there was an element last season, especially, that there didn't feel that connection between the players and the fans that you've maybe had in the past. It wasn't, I'm not saying it was an unlikable United team, but it just didn't feel that certain connection. There seemed a lot. Well, yeah, it probably wasn't the most likeable team in terms of what we've seen over the past.
Before people saying being negative there, we've got rid of half the bell end, so I'm not bothered. Honestly, it's fine.
Do you know what I mean? But there was that little bit of a disconnect. And when you see these players, like, I know he's not come through the youth, but Daniel James, young lad who we've brought in, the emotion from when he got his goal, you can connect with him. The likes of all the youngsters that Ollie's getting. Ollie himself is a hugely popular figure.
Exactly.
So, and, if you're going to use academy players, you'd expect the fans to get behind him. But I think, going back to that sort of thing of making Old Trafford a fortress, I think you have to have that sort of fear factor. I think back in the day, United could get a result almost before kick-off because teams came in and they thought, I'm not really going to get anything out of this game, let's just hope for a draw.
It's Liverpool and City now, isn't
it?
It?
Exactly. Teams are going to Anfield, they're going to the Etihad and giving up. They're coming to United and they've got that belief. Cardiff back in the last season, they had that belief. We're going ahead in games and teams are still coming back. I know we're not necessarily getting beat, but teams always sort of have that sort of belief that they can get something out of the game. And I think you need to bring that fear factor in. And Chelsea's helped do that, the Chelsea game. Teams will look at that and think, United are back on it.
We need to set the tone with
Do you know what I mean? United are back on it at Old Trafford. So, like I say, we go out all guns blazing like we did against Wolves, against Palace, get an early goal. I can see Palace sort of capitulating.
It helps having players that fans actually want to support as well a little bit. I think that's why last season we saw that great away run and then less happen at home. You pointed out the Cardiff game. I think it's because our players were genuinely scared to play in front of our own fans.
Yeah, I think the thing is, again, the way the last season went, the start of it under Mourinho and then going towards the end, sort of collapsing and almost just throwing the season away. In that Cardiff game, it was almost unexpected even as a United fan. I remember the Moyes era, turning up as a fan, and I remember Kabay scoring for Newcastle, and then
every week was a record was broken, wasn't it? Everton's first win in 40 years, Newcastle's first win in 40 years. It was just like
1-0s, and you just felt this isn't a card. I grew up just watching us going Old Trafford. I know we're gonna win. I think I'd only watched us lose once before that time. It was ridiculous.
My mate went to 9 games that season at Old Trafford and we lost all 9.
Bloody hell.
What?
Oh my God.
He literally saw us get I think every loss we had at Old Trafford he saw.
I remember Benteke scored a free kick, against Villa, and I turned to my mate and I was like, yeah, it's just alright, I'm used to this now. It was towards the end of the season,
I want to know who your mate was.
Jay Juniper, if you're watching, I'm pretty sure he went to 9 games. It might have been 10 and he saw 9 losses or something stupid.
I hope you're barred, mate, honestly. Never let him back in. Right, predicted 11's time. Do you want to start, Abdullah? Predict 11 for this week.
Let Jay start.
Go on, Jay. Go on, Jay. You can start. Go on.
Obviously, I think the back five picks itself now.
Yeah.
Despite the fact I didn't think Luke Shaw was particularly good against Traore, I don't think he's done enough to get himself drops. So I think, De Gea, Lindelof and Maguire obviously centre back pairing, Luke Shaw left back, Spider-Man right back. In midfield, I can see him actually after the Wolves game. Maybe I think the change he might bring Pereira back in. I don't know if Fred's gonna. I don't know where we're up to with Fred, if he's fit enough or whatever. But I could see it being Pereira, McTominay, and Paul Pogba. And for a front three, I'm gonna go with Rashford, Anthony, Martial, and I'm gonna throw in Greenwood. I think Greenwood might get a start. I'm not sure. I think he might just fancy this one to give Greenwood a start. He gave him 5 minutes at the end of the Wolves game. He gave him a start. Obviously, the back end of last season against Cardiff, he brought him on as well against Chelsea. So he obviously fancies him. So I think this might be the game that he thinks, Palace at home. Yeah, let's give him a go.
Nice. Don?
I think we're sort of going to keep our shape because I think Ollie's clarified that this is a system he wants to build, a sort of a 4-2-3-1 with Pogba being the deeper player. So the back five, like Jay, I think stays again. I agree with you on Luke Shaw. In the second half, very disappointing, hesitant when he gets on the ball, same problem. When you compare it to what he did with that bursting run when we got the goal in the first half, you want more of that. And not anticipating when the ball's, sort of landing in those 50-50s. I'd be tempted to bring Delo in, but I'd say
Can't play left back.
He can play left back, and I think he's someone that wants to play for the side, and I really do get that feel off Delo.
Do you think we need sorry to interrupt Abdul, do you think we need a settled back four? Do you think Ollie needs to give him a run? Because we've had such a merry-go-round, haven't we?
I think that's why he's doing that, and that's why I agree with keeping Shaw for this week. It is very disappointing how the second half went for him, but you need to keep it stable. And again, I always mention this, if you got 9 players that are playing to the top of their game and you got 1 or 2 and they still perform here and there, then it makes sense. And that could be Luke Shaw. Gradually, maybe we replace him. But
so many times this happened under Ferguson. A player would have a couple of bad games and they'd come through it because they'd just been kept in the team. And the other players had dragged them through the odd game. And we've just been unfortunate in recent seasons that
you'd hope it's one of them.
We've not had a team to drag them through.
And going into midfield, I think what we're going to see in this game from Paul Pogba, I can see him getting a goal or a couple assists because, if you remember playing sort of the 4-0 FC thing under Jose Mourinho, 4-2-3-1, he was playing as the holding midfielder alongside Herrera, I think it was that season, or Fellaini at the start just before, or Matic as well, I think was in the mix. So he'd be, pushing further up the pitch, having that free role. And I can see that happening. Against Wolves and Chelsea had to be a bit more reserved. So I think he can get on the ball a bit more and push further up the pitch. So I think he'll keep the shape, but Pogba will push up a bit. The 3 ahead of him, I think he's going to go with the Chelsea one. Lingard, Andreas Pereira, and Rashford, Martial, of course, interchanging out the centre and the left two, doing really well start of the season. I'd like to see Greenwood, but I think if there's a flurry of goals, which I can see us scoring a couple in this game. I think the confidence, the attacking line, the confidence that the defence has given us has been top. I can see us getting a couple of goals. You bring Greenwood on. I'd personally bring him on around 70th minute, regardless of the result. Just throw him in there.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to see Greenwood play, definitely.
Well, yeah, that's my 11.
So my team, I'm going for the back 5 that we've had for the last 2 games. I don't think he'll drop Luke Shaw. Maybe that is coming soon, though, if he does continue the poor form. I just hope it's Delo rather than Ashley Young that gets in the team. Then Pogba with McTominay as the centre mids. And then I'm going to go on the left, Martial. On the right, Dan James. Through the middle, Juan Mata and Marcus Rashford in front.
Mata's a shout, but he was disappointing off the bench, man.
Yeah.
Against Wolves, generally he's usually the composed head, isn't he? And I think that's why Ollie put him on the pitch. Like, I usually defend him and he can create a thing or two, but
I've defended Juan Mata. I still like Juan Mata. I can see why we've kept him.
But yes, the Monday night was very disappointing.
No, it wasn't great.
I get why you'd have him in, though. I do get why you'd have him in, because a side like Palace, there's always a pass through them, and I think their back four is so slow.
Yeah.
Very
stick Mata in. If there's not enough movement, bring Lingard in, Ollie. There you are. You've got that one from me. Opposition. Is it a case of stopping Zaha to stop Palace here?
Well, I think he didn't start the first game for him, did he? They brought him on because there's been all the talk of him leaving, and there was a bit of animosity between him and the fans and all the rest of it, and maybe Hodgson as well. But he's come back into the side, and I don't think he's his best, but he's been an effective player for them in terms of like getting on the ball and doing the stuff that Wilfried Zaha can do. He always seems up for it against United. I think he's always got a bit of a point to prove. I remember him at Old Trafford a few years ago when he came back with Palace. I think it was in the cup. It might have been anyway. It was a night game, and he was like their main threat. He was arguing with the ref constantly. I know he does that most games, but you could see he was up for it. He wanted the ball all the time, and I think he felt like he had a bit of a point to prove, and I can understand that because we know he came to Old Trafford. It didn't work out. I don't think we handled him very well. He came at a time when the whole team was a bit of a shambles. It was struggling under David Moyes. We didn't have any real direction. And I think he was sort of left to his own devices and all the rest of it in terms of sort of caring for him out of football and all the rest of it. So I do think you do need to sort of focus on him. I think he is their main threat for a reason. You know, you saw it in the summer. Arsenal, Everton wanted him, and Palace wanted big money for him, and you can see why, because he's almost, for them, the difference between relegation and staying in the Premier League. So you can't just ignore the other players like Townsend or whoever, but you do have to focus on Zaha. I don't think he's the only player. They have got some decent other attacking options, but he's the focal point. He's the one that everything seems to go for as well. You know, we took Wan-Bissaka off him. He was probably their second best player. I know he's a defender, but yeah, I think you've got to be. I'm a little bit worried about Zaha as well, because we're talking about Luke Shaw. Zaha goes over to that right hand side, starts getting at Luke Shaw. I think, you know, maybe Pereira's got to shift over a little bit and support him. Maybe, you know, Maguire's just got to be sort of there in his ear as well. It's just got to be. You've got to be careful here, because Zaha and Shaw does give me some slight concerns.
On the other hand of that, Luke Shaw was our Player of the Year last season.
Two-time Player of the Year.
What if he turns up this weekend, has an absolutely phenomenal game, and then his season just kicks on from there because he shut Wilfried Zaha up?
I'd love that to happen. I'm not negative in the sense we want him to play badly. It's just from the opening two, well, not the opening game, but from the last game, you do have that little concern. And I actually think last season, I don't think it wasn't my choice for Player of the Year, and I think he was the best of a bad bunch for a lot of people.
Fair enough, yeah. I'd understand, like I said, what happened in terms of him getting Player of the Year because he was the best of the bad bunch, but I would have gone like Lindelof.
He was mine,
I
agree
to be
with
honest,
pure consistency. But I do agree with the Zaha point on Luke Shaw, actually. I think that's where they could target us. Now, when Luke Shaw holds his line and he sort of sticks within that back four and he has the other full-back pushing up and providing that extra width for us, I think he sort of looks a lot better. You know, you look at how he played against Mo Salah. I think that was like probably why he got Player of the Year. Like the hype he got that day was ridiculous, and fair enough, because that was a very good defensive performance. But I think Ollie's system's changed. He likes his fullbacks coming into midfield and covering for the DMs a lot of the time, and they've got to press high and win it back. And Wan-Bissaka, because natural ability of, you know, intercepting the ball, anticipating what's happening and tackling is all natural to him, so he can drop in and drive into midfield and just, you know, pick the ball up. Unfortunately, Luke Shaw, I don't think has naturally got that, and I think we've got to make sure that Zaha doesn't, you know, really pick him out of that game. We're just gonna have to see. Personally, like, I think there's great sides to Zaha's game. You know, his dribbling ability is great. For me, he loves to overdo it a lot of the time. He tackles, you know, he almost dribbles the ball into the defender's feet, and I think if he plays on Wan-Bissaka's side, that'll be an easy day for Wan-Bissaka if that's all he's doing, because a lot of the time it does take too long to make something happen. A lot of it is just driving the ball into the box, waiting for someone to trip him up. You look at the way he played the other day for Palace, I wasn't too impressed. So if Wan-Bissaka, you can trust him defensively, and I think if he's up against Wan-Bissaka, I'd be happy.
Do you reckon the sports newspapers will be able to tell the difference between Wan-Bissaka and Zaha now they're in different shirts? Do you remember that when he signed?
Yeah.
Well, no, that's why
it was Zaha. They were all on the back of the paper.
You know, I don't want. You know, it was one of them minutes. Some journalist there just said, "They all look the same, don't they?" So I like, no one notice.
Close enough. Close enough. Fair enough.
Stick the black fella in there. Be all right.
Right. Score prediction.
I'm gonna go with a 3-0.
I was going to say 3-0 because I think the performance is going to be warranting a 3-0, but I think 2-0, if we keep the clean sheet and we get the win with a good performance, I'm happy. Even if it's just 1-0, I'm happy.
This Palace side do not look good at all.
No.
I think that them and Newcastle generally go.
They've not had a good start. Is it 1 point from the first two games?
And they didn't look good either.
Yeah, 1 point didn't look good in any of the games. They were lucky enough to like get the point. They lost, was it Sheffield United the other day? We've got, for me, I'm more confident that to get more than 3, but I'll just go 3, you know, for the sake of not looking like an idiot when Zaha turns up and I was one of the ass with it. So yeah, I'll go realistically 3, but I genuinely think the way we've been playing, And I think Pogba having the licence to push up further up the pitch in this game, and Andreas could possibly be the extra creative player, and Rashford, Martial are on that form right now and they're feeling it. So I could see us getting more than 3, but we'll just got 3, be realistic.
Right, that's Crystal Palace preview on Full Time Devils. That there is Jay, that there is Abdullah. My name's Gaz. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, buy the merch, watch all our videos. We've got the fan cams coming out this weekend, loads of instant fan reaction after the game. So we'll catch you there. Laters, in a bit.